forces continue to pursue the armed group's terrorists, inflicting on them heavy losses. The Egyptian people addressed the last alarm to Morsi to go back on his decisions, or else they would move to his palace. The UN General Assembly votes with a sweeping majority on a resolution calling on Israel to join the Nuclear Arms Non-Proliferation Treaty. Good afternoon, this is Yarato Krikorian with the news in English. Our armed forces have continued to pursue mercenary terrorist groups. They captured today 25 Qaeda-linked terrorists who were trying to evacuate the bodies of their killed members in Al-Zahra neighborhood in Aleppo. In Aleppo suburbs, an army unit eliminated 5 Tunisian terrorists in As-Safira district. Another army unit also killed a number of Qaeda-linked terrorists under a N.A.N.P.T bridge and confiscated their weapons. In Homs, armed terrorist groups shelled with mortar guns Al-Hwash and Al-Nasira villages in the suburbs Al-Husn town, killing 3 citizens and injuring several others. They inflicted material damage on cars and houses. The authorities also intercepted another terrorist group who tried to attack citizens and a law enforcement barricade at the entrance of Al-Husn town, killing and injuring several terrorists. 4 security men were killed in the operation. The authorities seized a quantity of ammunition hidden in a fuel tank of a vehicle in Shinshar area on Homs Damascus Road. In Al-Qusayr suburbs, an army unit clashed with a terrorist group and eliminated all its members in Al-Atifiyah farm. The authorities today eliminated al-Qaeda-linked group that was perpetrating acts of killing and stealing near Jowhar Farm on Mhardes Qailbiya Road in Hama suburbs. Sana correspondent quoted a source in the governorate as saying that the killed terrorist was identified as Ibrahim Sulaiman al-Khalil, one of the most dangerous wanted criminals who had committed acts of killing and burglary. A telecommunication device in addition to weapons and hand grenades were found in his possession. 29 students and a teacher in Al-Tayha al-Ula school in Al-Wafidin camp in Damascus suburbs were killed when terrorists fired their mortar shells on the school. Meanwhile, an armed terrorist group today assassinated journalist Naji Asaad in front of his house in al-Tadamun neighborhood while he was on his way to work at Tishrin newspaper this morning. An army engineering unit has dismantled 4 explosive devices in Harbin in eastern Ghouta during their pursuit of Qaeda-linked terrorist groups. An official source said the terrorists had planted explosive devices in the houses of the inhabitants near Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib Mosque with the objective of getting them detonated. They weighed between 30 and 50 kilograms each. An army unit today clashed with a terrorist group from Qaeda-linked Al-Nusra Front. The group had been assaulting citizens and sabotaging public and private properties in Al-Dhiabiyah in Damascus suburbs. Heavy losses were inflicted on the group. Several cars the terrorists had used in their criminal acts were destroyed. A number of machine guns and automatic rifles, as well as a large quantity of ammunition, were confiscated. Russian Foreign Ministry said today that Russia will not participate in the meeting of the so-called the Group of Syria's Friends, which is set to be held in Morocco, asserting that Russia's stance remains firm towards the unilateral formations. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov asserted the necessity for the foreign players to act in accordance with the Geneva Convention to find a peaceful solution for the crisis in Syria. In a phone call, Lavrov discussed with the UN envoy to Syria, Lakhdar al-Ibrahimi, the means to find a political solution for the crisis in Syria. He asserted the need to work with all parties in Syria to stop the violence immediately and to start a dialogue without preconditions. Mr. Lavrov explained to Ibrahimi that Russia constantly exerts efforts in this direction through its persisting contacts with both the Syrian government and the opposition. He underlined the importance for the foreign actors to work in this direction in line with Geneva Convention. The presidential al-Ittihadiyya palace in Egypt has witnessed an influx of Egyptians who started to arrive in the place to take part in a million-strong demonstration named the Last Alarm, called for by the various political and revolutionary forces in the country in rejection of the constitutional declaration and Morsi's call for a referendum on the constitution. Egyptian security forces were put in a state of alert. They set up barricades at all the outlets leading to Al-Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace in Cairo. Policemen and security personnel were deployed along the road leading from At-Tahrir Square in the center of Cairo to the Presidential Palace in the north. Barbed wire surrounded the palace that is situated in Masr al-Gdida neighborhood. All roads around the gas station near the palace were blocked to prevent demonstrators from inflicting through them. It is the first time in 30 years that such a wall is set up or this session. The Lebanese National News Agency said that the sound of gunfire was heard today in Mahal al-Talal al-Umari near Syria Street in At-Tabane, which created a state of confusion as some shops were closed in the wheat market and the trade movement was paralyzed. In turn, Al-Manar channel said that clashes and an exchange of gunfire was taking place between Bab al-Tabane and Jabal Muhsen in Tripoli using light arms and Energa shells. Yesterday, a number of shells have landed on the volatile crossings between At-Tabane and Jabal Muhsen amid rumors that led to heat and tension in the city. In New York, the UN General Assembly voted with a majority of 174 votes in favor of a resolution that calls on Israel to join the Non-Proliferation Treaty and to open its nuclear facilities in front of the International Atomic Energy Agency. The resolution calls on Israel to join the Non-Proliferation Treaty without delay and to stop developing, producing or testing nuclear weapons or even trying to possess nuclear weapons in any other way. Only 6 countries, including Israel and the US, opposed the resolution, while 6 other countries abstained from voting. Iran has declared that the Navy force belonging to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has downed an American drone plane on Iranian territories. The Iranian statement added that the plane was Eskan Eagle and was carrying out a reconnaissance sortie in the Persian Gulf. It was downed by the Iranian Guard's Navy Force defensive units and supervision system when it was flying in Iranian airspace. The commander of the Revolutionary Guard's Air Force, Admiral Ali Fadawi, said such planes usually take off from war vessels. He referred to the force's readiness to fulfill its tasks and maintain intelligence supervision of the movements of foreign troops in the Gulf region and the strategic Hormuz Strait. Iran had last year dropped an American drone espionage RK-170 plane after it had violated Iranian airspace. Back to our local news, Information Minister Amran al-Zarbi has affirmed that the Syrian media is strong enough to confront hostile information despite the limited potentials and the acts of sabotage committed against its establishments and their staff. During today's session of the People's Assemblies, the Information Minister pointed out that the hostile media has turned into a supporter of the conspiracies project, and some of them became specialized operation rooms for incitement and fabrications against Syria. Az-Zarbi reaffirmed that the national media has not been blocked before anyone from the opposition, and there exist no red lines except when it comes to national sovereignty in its constitutional sense. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more news about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. And now over to latest business and market news with Vani Ganjian after a short break. Heavy losses. The Egyptian people addressed the last alarm to Morsi to go back on his decisions or else they would move to his palace. The UN General Assembly in Al-Zahra neighborhood in Aleppo. In Aleppo suburbs, an army unit eliminated 5 Tunisian terrorists in As-Safira district. Another army unit also killed a number of Qaeda-linked terrorists under a N.A.N.P.T bridge and confiscated their weapons. Forces continue to pursue the armed groups terrorists, inflicting on them. Good afternoon, this is Ziyarado Krikorian with the news in English. Our armed forces have continued to pursue mercenary terrorist groups. They captured today 25 Qaeda-linked terrorists who were trying to evacuate the bodies of their killed members. Votes with a sweeping majority on a resolution calling on Israel to join the nuclear arms non-proliferation treaty.